And thanks for staying with us here on the JoyNews channel. It's our special coverage of the vote of censure proceedings against Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. And of course, this is the Pulse on the JoyNews channel. We're taking you right now to Parliament, where all of the action is. Hours of course, the minority stating their position on why they believe the Finance Minister should not continue to hold office. I want to bring in now my colleague, parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante, who's been monitoring events for us as the ad hoc committee proceeds on a break now. Kweku, if you can hear me, what's the latest in the House right now? So,
Gabi Asare-Otredakun, lawyer for Ken Ofori-Atta, has just left the committee room, not so happy with the process that has gone on so far. Indeed, you've seen him during the live proceedings raising objections to some specific questions, some specific answers, some specific documents that Dr. Kenyase Latofosson and the minority leader Haruna Idrisu have been tendering in furtherance of their claims to get Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta out. And so when they come back from this one, of course, minority leader Haruna Idrisu and Dr. Latofosson will be expecting to wrap up their arguments. It is not expected that today Ken Ofori-Atta, as Finance Minister, will respond to these allegations. Today is to afford him the opportunity to sit through this hearing, listen to the specific grounds and allegations that are being made against him so that he can prepare a defense and do so. And early on today, we heard from the co-chair of the committee, Katie Hammond, who just also left the place. He's been saying that the expectation is that if the minority whose censure motion has been referred to this special ad hoc committee conclude their testimony to the committee, the Finance Minister could take tomorrow and then the next day to make his presentation to the House. So the Finance Minister can have a lot of time, indeed Wednesday and on Thursday as well, if he has some response to these claims and allegations that have been leveled against him. But substantively, you've seen a number of splits between the committee to the NPP side, to the NDC side, with almost each and every one of them making up some argument that favors their perspectives, right? You've heard from Andrew Ajapamesa, who's been seeking to introduce some documents, some documentations, some information that sort of vindicates Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, that says that he's properly managed the economy. You've also heard from people like Okujoto Ablakwa, Zaneto Ajiman Rollins, Bernard Ahiafo, and of course, co-chair Dr. Dominic Ayine, who've all been canvassing a position that sort of lines or the arguments of Dr. Kenyase Latofosson. Will be seeking to also who spoke to a local radio station in Kenyase, saying that, I mean, Katie, I beg your pardon, Gabi Asare-Otredakun had said somewhere, insinuating that he was the one behind this majority claims for the Finance Minister to leave. So it's kind of a lot of issues to unpack. But bottom line, the minority have been leading evidence to back their 7 grounds within which they laid in their grounds of censure against the Finance Minister, that he's not fit, he's incompetent to lead the Finance Ministry in this time of economic difficulty. We'll be expecting that when it's time for the Finance Minister to do so, either he himself will do some presentation or his lawyer, Gabi Asare-Otredakun, will lead evidence to specific legal facts that he thinks bears out his client, Ken Ofori-Atta, in this matter.
And Kweku, if you can hear me, there are more issues coming up. At the start, of course, it was heated. Now we're getting a sense of where we're headed. Do we know what are the 3 outstanding issues? The ranking on the Finance Committee was insistent that he had to make a point on. I guess that's what's outstanding now, and basically what we're expecting to hear once the House reconvenes. I mean, the committee by extension.
So there are a number of things having to do with incompetence. You know, this is a wide word in terms of its definition, and there are those who have argued that the censure motion is sort of a quasi-legal proceeding, and so the argument that you'll be leading must be found in law. The others who have said and who have lined up with that position of the minority that this is a political matter and that you should be able to raise some of this issue. They are against turning this committee into a court so that you go strictly to the rules of court in terms of tendering evidence and all that. So these are some of the sticking points between the minority and the majority MPs on the committee. Particularly, you've been hearing forcefully from Andrew Ejapamesa, who is the Deputy Energy Minister, the Member of Parliament for 2nd, who's also been on this committee, forcefully making the argument that some of the claims, indeed, let me recount some of the things that I've said. Andrew Ejapa says that the Tuna Mahama, who was the resident director of IMF in the country, had spoken on Joy FM Newsfire and had contradicted the claims of Kenyase Atoforsen that the finance ministry had been misreporting data. That is not a position that the majority side have been supporting. Indeed, he led from KT Amon, who says that, okay, they must tarry slowly a bit on that. So clearly, the committee is divided. Even before they present their report, it is clear that those on the NDC side are hell-bent on supporting what the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, and Dr. Kenyase Atoforsen, who are presenting a case for the minority, have been presenting. We've also heard from Ejapamesa and other members of the NPP who are clearly saying that the finance minister must lose his job in this contest.
And Kweku, the issue about the co-chair, of course, this is a unique process, something we've not seen, I'm not too sure, in the lifetime of this parliament. How is that panning out? I mean, looking at what we've seen so far, and looking at that posture between that of the minority co-chair and that of the majority, would you say that we're in for a very tough time? Of co-chair and other things were not going to work. Indeed, you've heard from KT Amond, you've also heard from Dr. Dominic Ayine. There are a number of times where they have conflicting views on what should happen. Normally in Parliament, you have a chairman and you have a ranking member. The ranking member to lead the minority MPs on that committee. It is quite unique in this situation to have co-chair. That means they have to come together in agreement on certain matters. So when the lawyer for Ken Ofori-Atta, Gabi Asare-Okyere-Darko, has raised issues, has raised some objections, there have been times when Dr. Dominic Ayine held a contrary view, and there were times where KT Hamon also held a contrary view. So both MPs had to now come together, try and find a common ground before they can make a ruling. There's been times when they've just ceded to each other. So a number of occasions, only Dr. Dominic Ayine on his own has overruled questions that have been filed by the Honorable Andrew Ejapamesa. There's been times when KT Hamon on his own has also overruled questions that have been asked by the Honorable Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa. So that kind of unique arrangement is proving to be a challenge. But I mean, as time goes on, they've been trying to gel together. So there are those, I remember on Thursday, when the Speaker made this referral, who said that it's not going to be possible for these two co-chairs, especially when they're coming from completely different positions in the House, to be able to agree on some of these key issues. But clearly, they've been finding some difficulty from the start, but they are seeking to be able to work together for the betterment of the committee and the kind of work they are supposed to do. Because this is a political process. KT Amon is a New Patriotic Party MP. Sometimes, I remember when the Honorable Kenyase Atoforsen was making his position, KT Amon came in to say that, well, some of these things that you term as fiscal irresponsibility was simply government building roads, was simply government building schools, building bridges. Why are you not saying that also? So clearly, his political colorization manifesting in that regard. And there's been times when Dr. Dominic Ayine, who is actually a co-sponsor of this censure motion, but still happens to be a deputy, the other co-chairman on this committee, has also made some forceful arguments that seek to support his colleagues. So it is clearly some very interesting sticking points on this matter for now. The final issue about the financial misreporting and the breach of the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Largely the minorities putting out some figures. Quickly, let's get to the figures briefly.
So you've heard from Dr. Kenyase Atoforsen referring to the 2018, 2019, 2020 budgets of the finance ministry, the specific issues that they laid out in terms of what they thought would be the budget deficit. He says that some of the data they represented to Parliament was markedly different from that which they represented to IMF, and that he sought to say that was because the finance minister was being dishonest. He said as a committee, and he belonged to the finance committee, they have tried on a number of occasions to try and come to a certain common grounds as to why the finance minister does so. The finance minister had insisted that in terms of their reporting of the numbers, they were just being accurate. But he sought to suggest that by presenting different figures to Parliament and by presenting set of different figures as well to the IMF, the finance minister clearly was trying to hide something, because as Parliament, and in the last Parliament, MPP had an overwhelming majority, and so there were a number of issues they could simply push through by virtue of their numbers. This time around, it's not the same, so they've been facing some challenges. He sought to suggest that it's because of the close numbers in the House, that is why the finance minister is now, adding all these figures. He made some references to over the line and below the line discussions of issues having to do with the deficit reporting, the 2.8% that you heard him say there. It clearly was referring to the Public Financial Management Act, the Fiscal Responsibility Act, which mandates the finance minister not to go beyond a certain threshold of deficit. He says the finance minister has breached all those, with the exception of 2018, because at the time, the Fiscal Responsibility Act had not come into force. And also in 2020, because of COVID, the finance minister suspended the rule. So prior to that, he sought to suggest that the finance minister had been breaching that, and that it was even a surprise that the censure motion had delayed in coming in now, and that clearly, because of these alleged infractions of the finance minister, the situation was ripe now for the censure motion to be moved and debated. But the sticking point really has been about how this committee is supposed to do its work. Is it supposed to be an inquisition? Are they supposed to be asking the persons who are leading evidence to clarify their statement? Or they're just supposed to sit, listen to them make their presentation, listen to the finance minister as well, then come to some sort of conclusion and then make a presentation in the form of a report to the House for the House to debate and vote on it. These are some of the disagreements, but so far they found their way to be able to work around it. And when they come back, it is expected that the matters having to do with whether or not the finance minister has been incompetent will be argued by Kesela Tuforsen and the minority leader Haruna Idrisu before the House will probably take an adjournment for today in expectation of the finance minister himself, Ken Ofori-Atta, appearing to defend his position tomorrow.
Then, Kwekwe Asante, we'll be back to you to get the very latest. I want to bring in our brother, Lord Mensah of the University of Ghana Business School. Thank you for your time here on The Pulse. And you've heard the minority state their position largely on fiscal matters, claims of misreporting of figures and some more issues. Let's take it from the breach, first of all, of the Fiscal Responsibility Act. What's your take on what we've heard the ranking on the Finance Committee say?
Clearly, it is an act that in the preparation towards the IMF exit, it was an act that was more or less to guide us and then to put us in that financial discipline, pedestal, so that at least we will not end up with IMF. So this act has some, parameters as far as our macroeconomic front is concerned for us to follow. And so one of them is 5% budget deficit, for which, if you are to go by the act, the finance minister was supposed to keep to that 5% budget deficit. So in effect, if you take the dynamics, this Responsibility Act came in force somewhere 2018 thereabout. And the minority is asking that after the law, we still had the finance minister breaching this Fiscal Responsibility Act by presenting budgets that the deficit is way above the 5%, which we all know, the consequence of, reading a budget that the budget deficit is huge. You end up borrowing to finance, the budget deficit. So effectively, what they're trying to pinpoint is that the finance minister is not financially, disciplined enough when it comes to keeping to economic numbers. And then also looking at the uncertainties in reporting of our debt figures. That is also one of them. And we all understand that the economic space does not like noise. Noise means today one figure, tomorrow another figure. Today one place a figure, and then another place a different figure. So effectively, the noisy nature can even scare, investors. In a way, the confidence that they will have in the economy will not be there. So all pinpoint, to the build-up of the non-performance of the finance minister. And so it's not surprising they were parading this. But then one thing that baffles me, I think I was somewhere when I saw that the lawyer side of the finance minister asking for, documents as far as some of the accusations are concerned. And I was asking myself whether most of if seen any underhand deal that you get a receipt for it. That's the question I ask. Then obviously, most underhand deals will go scot-free in the law court if we should look at evidence alone. But then the numbers exhibit, the numbers show clearly. So I think the minority were using the numbers to indicate that the finance minister has not been performing to the expectations of a typical finance minister. And as a result of that, that is, why our economy has gotten to this level. And I think that is true. Because you cannot, accuse the finance minister based on some of the things is done, behind doors. The only thing you can present is the numbers. So if the minority is pushing for the numbers in that regard, I think it's in the right direction. That's the only way you can use to nail him,
And then the implications for our economy, now that we have our finance minister facing this quote-unquote trial, if I may call it that way, what's going to be the impact?
Yeah, the implications are huge. I wish it would not have gotten to this level, to the point where the president would have acted on when the finance minister's head was being called on. As we speak now, it has created that kind of a cloud of uncertainty in our economic direction, and even to the extent budget has not been read. So what is happening now in this country is not a good signal at all, and it has a strong implications on our economy. Because anybody sitting out there or sitting in-house in Ghana planning for the next moment, he may not be able to plan, Effectively, it has a lot of implications, which we're not supposed to take it for granted. But it's part of our democratic, dynamics, which we may have to experience. At the end of the day, it's a test which will go into the books, and in future, we know what to do. Anyway.
What's your suggestion? That the finance minister voluntarily leaves office even before the processes are completed?
That is why I'm saying that how I wish we would not have gotten to this level, where we have to, sit the finance minister down, to hear his case on that's the constitution stipulate that. But I was thinking we've overstretched the constitution to this level. So for me, I think it could have bowed out, humbly, so that the economy can move on.
Okay, then. We'll have to leave it here. We'll still wait for, of course, the next 30 minutes as the ad hoc committee resumes sitting. Professor Lord Mensah, I'm grateful for your time. Please stay. We'll be back shortly. And welcome back to the polls. Now, one person has been confirmed dead and 4 others are in critical condition as police duty officers stationed with Newmont Mining Limited clashed with the youth at Kenyase No. 2 in the Ahafo region. And of course, on your screens now are some of the pictures of what transpired there today. Sources indicate that personnel from the Foreign Police Unit and Counter-Terrorism Unit stationed with the Newmont Company had an altercation with one of the officers, and of course the rider gunning one person down after the ensuing struggle. So you have some of the pictures there. His death actually sparked a revolt by the youth in the area, leading to 4 more people being shot. Well, let's get more from Lava Films' Erastus Donko, who joins us live with details of what's happening there at Kenyase. Would definitely get Erastus to give us the latest on that, because we hear, for instance, that the youth have the bridge between Kenyase's number 2 and Ntroso Road in protest against what's happening. So basically, the youth, as we understand, have actually cut off supplies to the adjoining communities. We'll try and get the very latest for you and also get you the latest of what's happening in the Kenyase area. Of course, the picture there of the vehicle and the tires actually, which have been burnt. We'll get you some updates as and when we have them, but this is the latest that we have coming through. Now, we do understand that the Office of the Special Prosecutor has also released a statement this afternoon indicating that it is going to act on some of the findings in the latest investigative documentary, Galamsey Economy, by investigative journalist Anas Arimyao Anas. So let's get you excerpts of the statement. There you have it on the screen, of course, by a letter dated the 14th of November 2022, and referred the Office of the Special Prosecutor, the Secretary to the President upon the directions of the President, referred to the Office of the Special Prosecutor for further investigations. Allegations of corruption, I beg your pardon, has been leveled against Charles Edubwahi, the former Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance, which contained an investigative expose published by the Tiger Eye PI team and the investigative journalist Anas Arimyao Anas, entitled The Galamsey Economy. Now, the Office of the Special Prosecutor is indicating that it has, quote, promptly commenced investigations into the actions of Charles Edubwahi and any other implicated person contained in the investigative expose Galamsey Economy, and that's signed by the Special Prosecutor, Kenyase Jabing. Let's get on to Zoom now. My colleague unfortunately, we've lost, of course, my colleague there. But, of course, we'll definitely get you some updates. And we head to the streets where, of course, a single mother of 4 sells sachet water to make ends meet after her yam selling business crumbled in the heat of the economic crisis. Currently working on the streets, Angelina strives to get transport money back to the Ashanti region where her family is, but that hope seems to be dimming by the day. Mamiesi Thompson engaged, therefore, with this episode of the Living Standard series. Let's take you to our earlier story where 1 person has been confirmed dead and 4 others in critical condition as the police duty officers stationed with the Newmont Mining Limited clashed with the youth of Kenyase. Joining us now is Erastus Donko, following the up on the story for us. Erastus, what's the latest as we speak?
I have just moved just about half a mile from the scene to get a better network. But I must say that the youth are still there in their numbers. More of them have joined them. They are saying that they are not leaving that stretch of the road. It's a bridge.
If you can hear me, I mean, have the police made any arrests so far?
Between the Ntotrosu to the bridge and this morning, around 5 a.m., 5 to 6 a.m., we are told. Now, what is angering them, according to them, is that these people did not go to Newmont Mining's concession, neither did they steal their words. The tricycle operator was returning with teak logs for his business when he was accosted by these duty officers stationed at the mining company's premises. And in the ensuing altercation, they shot him dead, and they shot 4 other people who are currently receiving treatment in another private hospital here at Kenyase. And so they are demanding justice, and until they get that kind of justice, which they are not able to tell me exactly, then they will leave the scene. But until then, they are burning tires, they are stopping vehicles and extorting money from them. Some of them are holding machetes, some are holding guns. And I saw one person holding, one of these old rifles. And so that is what is happening at that portion of Kenyase here in the Asutifi North district of the Ahafo region.
Erastus, so give me a sense of some of the officials that you engaged when you visited the area.
Well, so we have currently the police personnel from the Ahafo region who are currently there. I could count about 10 police officers. They are not firing tear gas. They are not doing facing the crowd, but they are coming, trying to calm them down. And so the district commander and the divisional commander, they are here, and they are trying to speak to the boys. And the boys, some of them are listening to them, and they are backing off. There are some who are still insisting that they will want to demonstrate, they will want to protest, they want to seek their kind of justice. And so they are still doing what they are doing. But the police are there trying to calm nerves and still speaking to the youth as we speak. So we have some of the vehicles stationed on the bridge and trying to prevent the youth from escalating their protests to burning vehicles and burning property.
All right, then, Erastus Asare Donko, thank you for giving us the latest. But of course, here's what we found out when he visited the area.
2 people have been shot by police. 1 is dead, according to the people here. We have not confirmed that independently, but another has also been shot and has been rushed to the hospital. Now, what we are learning is that this is happening over some abandoned material belonging to the Newmont Company Limited. That's according to these people. I will try to find out. Currently, as you see behind me, they have mounted a blockade there. The youth are very angry at the moment. They have their grievances, why they are angry. We'll try to find out from them why this is happening and why they are so angry. Let me speak with you. Diana Koswa.
Dia kosu nyina no ye de ni obi ani asem. Ye timamufu adwuma ni omanimu. Animont ebo na watu awie na ebo na egu no ene yesi akofa se ebedi. Fa bo no so ne yabanso no masache no no dia kotum. Eno kwa de odi kotum ye na nka ebusuafo be kwa akoyie. Omo dia kotum ya se omo fa kotum bi omo do no mu tutuo. Omo ya no mastate tutuo. Enti na ya no ka se omo di ka to obi tuo amana wu. Ni pande na hospital. Ye be dua de se antiase ye nso ye baba ye. Yes, you have demonstration. And almost two obisutu nensa or the emergency CCR.
So
Newmont police, or see from anti-robbers. I'm a cast in them to buy. Already almost start. I cannot feel a cocoa. I know minimum baby or green nada. So I didn't know a costume. I idea. On mine or some if persuasion fail, force must apply. We will do everything possible for this community. Young slow mo that. You bet me no man say. I do so Pamiantina or Mubaya Jane. So we all my dreams says here to Muba and Kumno Baba Kunyan Kwadia, Yedika and Suru. And yet, so my Maya quite go ahead, say young Conquest Sab one be bedded here. Shanna Mom script in the BNC yard more say, Wakako Yajima, yes, young chain. There were, I say, young Massacrit in Ibia Quans on Tracroma. We are working out to meet Tracroma because your chrono was some penny. Yes, your chrono was a young Boklon.
Okay, so in effect, what they are saying is that Newmont Company Limited, ahead of me here, they have some abandoned rocks that they do not like, and that is what they are also relying on to use it, process it for gold so they can also survive. But then when they go in for these so-called abandoned rocks, they are chased by the police, arrested and fined. But these days, they are not arresting them anymore. They are shooting to kill them. And so he's telling me that as we speak, they have gunned down one person, and then they have also shot and injured another person. I was asking who shot them. He said, police recruited by Newmont Company Limited, they are doing that. And they are saying that if they will not allow them to use the abandoned rocks to also survive in this town when there are no jobs, then they will not also allow them to work. In fact, they will face them squarely. They will meet them boot for boot because they are not afraid of them. And they were expecting that in any case, if they have done anything wrong, they should be arrested. But then they are not arresting them, they are shooting them, and so they will also face them. Currently, as we speak, we have a number of angry youth here. You can see the motorbikes that are running around in here. More of these youth are coming around because they say they do not like what has gone on, especially the shooting of unarmed people within the community. So we're trying to find out more, and we're trying to go to the scene and get more information as to what has actually happened here. But that is what we are being told at the moment. So you can see the
and expect some more updates as and when we have them. But of course, my colleague Erastus Azari don't go with the latest from the Kenyase community. But back here within the Greater Accra region, the spillage of excess water from the Weija Dam forced 7,000 people to out of their homes a month ago. It also killed a 55-year-old man with schools forced to shut down for a week. But for the timely intervention of the rescuers, 92-year-old Grace Obia would have also died in the floods. She has been narrating her ordeal to JoyNews, and it tells the pictures of she had kept for decades with the hope of showing them to her grandchildren, well destroyed by the flood waters. Maxwell Agbagba has the rest of the story.
The Weija municipality is beautiful with stunning views, especially from its numerous hills. But all of that changed when the spillage of excess water from the Weija Dam started forcing residents out of their homes. Communities such as White Cross, Tetegu, and others changed into a river with no dry land. The only way to access the communities was with a boat. So 1 month ago, I was here at the Weija municipality where hundreds of people were marooned on rooftops after the spillage of excess water from the Weija Dam. I was here together with personnel from the 48th Engineer Regiment who were on a rescue mission. They were on a rescue mission to save many lives, and we joined them on that journey. It is exciting to see that life has bounced back to this community with the residents going about their normal activities.
Water level reaching their knee. I've never seen anything like this in my whole life. This is the first time I'm seeing something like this. There's a woman here who is on this boat here with me. Let's interact with her. Let's find out from her. Hello. She doesn't want to talk to
I'm at the residence of 55-year-old Adikwashi, the only person known to have died in the devastating floods. Adi was trapped in his room after the flood rose to dangerous levels. His body was found lying close to his bed after the flood subsided.
I think that was last week. Last week I saw him. That was my last time of
Ajo's
seeing him.
uncle is Adikwashi,
Because
and she's here with her family mourning the man who catered for her when she was young.
It's too much, and I don't know how to swim, so I left here early. So I was there yesterday when I had a call. They found him dead in the room.
I'm now at the residence of 92-year-old Grace Obia. She lost everything
to the flood here in this Weija community. And she was one of the people who was trapped here in this community. What you can see behind me are some of the things that got destroyed, some personal possessions that got destroyed after that flood. You can see books here, still here, 1 month later, still here. She's been telling me about how she lost all her pictures, some dating back to about 60 years when she was young and very active. 92-year-old Grace Obia is seated in a wheelchair outside her home. Tears well up in her eyes as she narrates to me how she lost everything. She told me, quote, "I was in the room. I am bedridden, so I couldn't get up. I heard loud screams from outside that is fast approaching. I asked what they were talking about. I had sent my grandchild to buy bread for me for some tea. She came back to the house to tell me our community was getting flooded. She said," she continued to say, "the water forcefully opened my gate. I was here and I could see my house getting flooded." I was rescued by a team. They carried me. I felt pains in my joints. They carried me and waded through the water to the side of the road. All of us couldn't come back home for days. I was taken to the residence of one of my children at Kaswa. I lost everything, my passport and pictures and everything, she said as tears started to well up in her eyes. And our pictures. A month ago, this used to be the home of a man who lived here together with his wife and 3 children. On the day of the flooding, he was not, at home. He came back from work to meet this. His sound system, his sofa, the furniture in his room, everything completely destroyed. Now, as it stands right now, this room remains uninhabitable because of its state. You can still see the mattress that used to be in this room. You can see a picture of the man and then his wife also here. You can see.
Quite a touching story there. But now let's talk about Star Ghana Foundation's special alumni philanthropy project. Well, the project is actually seeking to raise some resources from old students from the Ghanaian community to undertake various projects at schools aimed at improving transparency, accountability, and inclusiveness. This time, the team plans to refurbish the ICT Center at the Cape Coast School for the Deaf and Blind. Joining me in studio now is Lete Nyomi, coordinator of the Central Alumni Philanthropy project. It's a good time to be talking to you. Welcome to the Pulse.
Thank you, blessed.
So what's this alumni project all about? I guess my viewers want to know, first of all, about the project.
It's a project, yeah. We have this group set up to mobilize the schools in Cape Coast, the high schools in Cape Coast. To come together to raise funds to refurbish the ICT Center of Cape Coast School for the Deaf and Blind. Specifically, we are talking about schools like Mfantipim, Adesaddle, Holy Child, Wesley Girls, Ghana National, Mfantaman, Agri Memorial. There are 8 schools. We call them the G8 schools. Right. Yeah, and the whole idea is, for one thing, philanthropy is something that many people think people have to wait for people to come from outside and come and donate this and so on and so forth. We're saying that we're going to, our targeted, the beneficiaries are Cape Coast School for the Deaf. If you go to Cape Coast School for the Deaf now, you'll see projects undertaken by people from Netherlands, from Japan, and so on. And you would actually just wonder, what are we doing as Ghanaians?
And these schools produced a lot
they produce exactly
students, and
many people
have well placed now.
Exactly, well placed in society. And what are they giving back to Cape Coast? Right. I know they are doing so much for their schools. Mfansipim students are helping in Mfansipim. As a matter of fact, I am a product of Mfansipim. But there's more to me than just Mfansipim, because I schooled at Mfansipim, I taught at St. Augustine's, I taught at Adisado, I taught at Wesley.
So you understand the G8 itself, the concept about the excellence there.
And bringing the G8 together takes me back to the 70s when we had this intercore, where people would always come to Cape Coast to come and see them, interact in sports and all that. Right. This time we want to bring them together, not for sports, but to come together and support a less privileged school, which is Cape Coast School for the Deaf and Blind.
Why the selection of that facility, by the way?
Yes, we have precisely because we don't want to leave anybody behind. I mean, the mantra of the Sustainable Development Goals says we should leave no one behind. Right. And if we call Cape Coast the citadel of education, and all these schools, we hear of all these big schools, and then the School for the Deaf and Blind, they are already, they have a setback, a challenge. They are differently abled. But then we're not saying that they are not able to contribute meaningfully to society. If they had the opportunity, if they had the computers, like others have, probably some of the problems they are confronting as a country now, they'll be the ones who step in to solve them.
And I see how passionate you are about this. Those who would want to support the project would at least want to know what's happening there and why should I support anyway? Yeah,
what's happening there? Yes, the students are in dire need of, we had this project launched at the airport View Hotel about 3 weeks ago, 20th October, and they were there themselves. And, in a documentary that we made, they were saying that, look, this is what we need most. Right. That's what they need most. They need computers, and then they need, projectors to facilitate their learning. Because, most of them are unable to even concentrate. The teacher is just using sign language and things like that. They want to relate to, exactly. And they have only one laptop in the whole school. So the ICT teacher has to take it from one class to the other. And we are talking about 400 students.
So what's the target?
We aim at getting about 300,000 cedis to be able to get 50 computers and 5 projectors for them.
Yeah. And I'm sure that you've already contacted some persons.
Oh, yes. People.
What's the level of reception towards even the idea of going with a G8, which you're talking about?
It's been phenomenal. Even the launch itself, it took an old student of St. Augustine's to say, come and do it at my place. We're giving he provided the cocktail, the conference room, everything for us to do it there. We've had people developing websites. We've had some people giving money and supporting the idea. And we would want to encourage anybody who benefited from the schools in Cape Coast, these GH schools. You can just, maybe 100 cities is fine. And you can work out the mathematics. Every year group has about, if they have their year group platforms, they have about 100 people, at least 100 people. If each of these 100 people give, let's say for the last 30 years, 1980 to say 2010, that's 30 years, that alone, that will give us 300,000 per school. And if all 8 schools give,
exceed the target.
If 8 schools give 2.4. You get it.
So you may even exceed the target easily. Of getting more
which would be a good
50.
thing. Right. Which would be a good thing because what we are trying to establish is a new model of philanthropy, where you're not only giving back to your own school, but also you are thinking about the less privileged in society. And if it works, why not? We'll scale this up. I don't know what school you attended. But,
I went to Bishop Eman College,
okay,
by the way.
Fine. So we'll get to the Volta region and then soon it will be a national philanthropy project.
Okay, so how about organizations? Because when you make it sound this way, the belief is, well, I could support. I'm an organization. My organization could support. But of course, you're saying it's for quote unquote the G8.
Yes.
So let the G8s work out on their own solutions.
Oh, I would want to. You made an interesting point earlier on that we have students from schools, from these G8 schools, all over the country and in so many establishments.
Right.
I'm actually very proud to say that the head of your establishment here, Mr. Kisichu, is
amazing.
Yes, he's an old student of Philanthropy.
Right.
You know, so you find them everywhere. You can't. They are everywhere. So wherever you are, you can influence your establishment. And if we have what do you call it? When you get onto our website, you would find how to donate, and you can also, of course, just if it's Momo, if you're in Ghana and you want to give, it's *365.
Okay, let's get to it so people can follow properly. So this is the short code that you're referring to.
The short code, yes.
We'll talk about the website.
Yes,
so let's start with the short code.
Okay, for the short code, you dial *365. If you remember the 365 days in a year, so *365, then *443, hash.
Okay, *365,
*443, hash.
Okay, right.
That is.
Then you follow the prompt.
Then you follow the prompt. It actually asks you for transparency and everything. You know, at the end of it all, we're going to have a roll call. I mean, of all those.
Okay, so you publish the names.
We'll publish the names
so that everybody knows.
On the website. Yeah, but then after that, it asks you what school are you donating for? Is it in Philanthropy, St. Augustine's, at the Saddle? And then, interestingly, there's a ninth one. There are 8 schools.
Okay.
And there's a ninth one. And the ninth one is others. So you who attended Bishop Herman, you're free to give.
Elitism here, but in a nice way.
Yeah,
G8 and the others. Anyway, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Then the website option. So if someone is logging onto the website, which
it's
site should you be?
www.centralalumni.org.
Okay.
www.centralalumni.org. And you just browse through giving. You can actually give. We need 50 computers. So if you give even one computer, we have only 49 more to get.
Right.
If you give us 2,
but I'm sure you have specifications, so it's ideal if you give out
exactly. Yes, right.
So
centralalumni.org. Yes.
Okay.
The estimate is a computer would cost 5,500.
Okay.
If we're buying it now.
Right.
I don't know what the price will be in January. so if you want to get us one now, yes, 5,500.
Okay.
But otherwise, send your 100 CDs or 1,000 or whatever.
So let's talk about the team. If they want to get in touch with the team.
Yeah. No, you were talking about the website. So
how to go about that. Let's complete that first.
So over there, then you can pay with whatever means. I mean, credit card, debit card, whatever. I mean, and
so once you enter your details, it's almost as though you're doing an online transaction.
Yes, exactly. Like you're doing an online transaction.
Then the issue about the contact persons.
Yes.
Probably are there some contacts or some places, locations where you could just make your donation?
If you want to get in touch with us directly, of course, then you can also send an email or make a call.
Okay.
Yes, and the number is 0266.
Slowly so they can get that.
0266 969 159. 0266 969 159.
Okay.
And I'll be very happy to talk to you.
And I need to ask about this. The alumni associations are very critical in this. Have you involved them, and do you have their buying into this whole idea?
Yes. Actually, during the launch, we invited all the executives. The national executives came. And the interesting thing is that we have formed a board of trustees made up of representatives from these various schools. So at the end of it all, we are accountable to the board of trustees.
So it's a transparent process.
Very transparent process. I mean, it's Star Ghana, and Star Ghana stands for strengthening transparency, accountability, and responsiveness. That's what the foundation stands for.
Okay, Senator, let me give you the opportunity to speak directly to my audience.
Yes.
Maybe they don't believe me if I say it. I'm not part of the G8. So let's allow the G8 club to sell their message.
I really hope I'm talking to some people out there who attended Philanthropy, at the Saddle, St. Augustine's, Holy Child, Ghana National, Wesley Girls, and Infantaman. If you attended any of these schools, this is a call to duty. We are doing this and we must do it as soon as possible. In fact, we want to give the Cape Coast School for the Deaf a newly refurbished ICT center on the 14th of February, which is Valentine's Day next year. So please, don't waste any further time. Now that you're hearing my appeal, just dial *443 *365 *443 # and make that donation, or go to the website and you would find other opportunities to make your donation, or you could call me and we could still talk further about this. Giving is always a blessing. It's more blessed to give than to receive. Thank you.
And of course, you can be a part of the G8 by association. So donate as well and support. And of course, we'll be on our way to supporting the School of Deaf and Blind. But I'm grateful, Senator Anyumi, for
Thank you very much.
joining us.
Thank you, blessed.
You're still with us here on the Pulse. Students of state experimental basic schools in the Ashanti region can now sit comfortably in class after the 2002 alumni of the school donated more than 200 monodesks and other teaching materials to the school. There's more in this report.
The State Experimental Cluster of Schools is one of the oldest public schools in the Ashanti region, having churned out notable personalities in the country. Established in the 1950s, the school has since not seen any major renovations and challenged with infrastructural deficits. Students at the school have had to struggle with inadequate desks by sharing the few ones available with their colleagues. The 2002 year group of the school donated over 200 monodesks, 30 tables and armchairs for teachers, as well as pen drives and reading items. Mercy Ekwia speaks for the group.
Having our parents to buy, I know it's free education, but at times some students don't have or can't afford to buy it. So from student point of view, ideally having that will impact them, like in terms of learning. You can't come to school and stand. So having that provided, I feel like, you have that zeal to come in because you've got table and chair to use.
Authorities and students of the school could not hide their joy upon receiving the items. Headmaster Solomon Oforikankam says the items came at the opportune time and would facilitate smooth learning at the school.
The challenge with furniture is that we have a lot of them broken. We don't have money to repair them. Sometimes it is some of the parents who volunteer to come and then repair some for us. And also we're not having enough, honestly. We're not having enough in the class. You go to a class that has about 40 people with only 18 monodesks. 40 people sharing 18 monodesks, which was very, very bad. It was not helping teaching and learning. And because of that, the children were also not coming to school.
For JoyNews, Emmanuel Bright-Kweku reporting.
And some commercial drivers say they have now adopted smarter ways of conserving energy on their trips by resorting to speed control on the road in order to meet their sales. Although this has increased traveling hours and causing agitations from passengers, the drivers say they cannot.
We have now reduced our speed on the road. If you don't limit your speed, you will not be able to meet your sales and take care of your family. The more you speed, the more the fuel consumption goes higher. So if you were traveling at 120 kilometers per hour, you will now have to reduce it to 100 in order to save fuel.
Because if we need traffic as well, now the quarter, a bit midway for to be winning back. So, but traffic will be flabby do be not Sakota now or Nasa.
Oh, first, and then you can't.
My car is a V8, and some passengers expect us to travel on a higher speed because they want to arrive at their destinations early. But we don't listen to them any longer because our concentration is to reduce the speed and save our fuel. It is now hard. Passengers are no longer traveling. They do their transactions via phone. It is really hard. We are hungry.
And thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. We'll be crossing over shortly to Parliament, but that will be after this break.